I've got great news if you're a fan of the Emperor's Finest, and if you're not a fan of them, well, sucks. Guys, I'm Doc Crump. Welcome back to Happy Crump and Wargaming. I am a top 100 player in Warhammer 40,000. I am a professional Warhammer 40k coach. I'm a chiropractic neurologist. And in my previous careers, one of my biggest things was I always had to focus on learning techniques and strategy of how to approach treating really complex patients. So now I'm actually taking all of that experience into helping you guys identify the correct strategy and tactics on the tabletop. So I like to analyze the tabletop and I help you become the best possible player in Warhammer 40,000 as is possible. So, today we're talking about the Golden Boys, the beautiful men of the Imperium of Man. We have some really cool news about these guys. Currently, they feel so good on the tabletop. One of my most hated things about 10th edition was how boring the Adeptus Custodes were. If you guys don't know about my coaching program, it's literally called the Adeptus Custodes because I am an Orc player and a Custode player at heart. They were my two greatest loves. Yes, I currently love my Blood Angels. I currently love my Dark Angels, but these guys are freaking awesome. So today, let's break down what makes them so freaking good in this edition. And I'm going to give you count it, three lists to get your creative juices flowing. So currently, this past weekend was the first official weekend of 11th edition. I know, it seems like we've been here forever, but honestly, this is day 2 of having 11th edition released, which is kind of crazy to even think about. But we had our first weekend, and guys, take all of this with a grain of salt, all the results from the first, honestly, few months of 11th edition, because even for the first few months, you can pretty much guarantee that people are playing half the rules wrong anyway. But at this event, we had a 5-0 for the Adeptus Custodes, and I understand why it happened. I'm going to go through that list. I'm going to give you 2 other lists to get these creative juices flowing so that you can get really, really excited about what you are building. But basically, the large overview of Custodes and why they feel so dang good now is that there are just a wild amount of different builds that you can make with the Custodes. Due to the new disposition system, it just dramatically changes how we can score and how we can win the game. Stack that with the benefits of Hidden and the new Gone to Ground, which gives Hidden at 12 inches, or I guess another way to say it is just -3 to your detection range. The ability for Custodes to play this game has dramatically improved. So, Custodes love Purge the Foe. They're pretty dang good at killing stuff. They love taking hold. So you've got like Talons of the Emperor and even your Solar Spearhead, which are taken hold. And if you're not familiar with taken hold is the disposition that is going to be most similar to 10th edition, where you're basically trying to hold objectives. Now, of course, objectives are terrain, but you're holding these objectives. And they really, really love both priority era assets and the one that I'm really excited about for Custodes. And this is going to be some. You guys saw the thumbnail, so this is going to be really, really spicy. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about my Reconnaissance list that I'm currently working on. Okay, so this is Reconnaissance is the disposition that requires you just basically to be everywhere on the board. You're doing a couple actions, you're trying to kill your opponent, but you're really just trying to be in places. You can think of Reconnaissance as like engage on all fronts as a primary, almost. It's not really that simple, but it's close enough. All right, let's talk about some of these freaking lists. Let's get into it, because I know you guys are itching to hear about it. So here's the 5-0 build that happened this past weekend. Apologies, I forgot the name of the guy who ran it, but congratulations to you. I'm happy. All right. This was Lions and the Might of the Moratoi. This is the detachment that gives you +1 to hit and +1 to wound when there's no enemy models within 6 inches of you, which does not apply to vehicles, mind you. And then the Might of the Moratoi is going to be the detachment that will give +1 to advance, +1 to charge, and +2 to movement for Adeptus Custodes walker units. It's basically the only way you can actually make walker units usable. Previously, in the last edition, the only way to do it was in Solar Spearhead, which was one of our detachments, and you couldn't ever take walkers in any other detachment because they were practically useless. But now, with the Might of Moratoi, we can actually take walkers and have them freaking useful in other detachments, which is so sick. It's really, really cool. So this list is built around the concept of Purge the Foe. And for Purge the Foe, which is what most people are probably kind of leaning towards how they're going to be building their list in the beginning of the edition, Purge the Foe is basically, hey, you kill the enemy, you get a lot of points. It's the simplest path to scoring really well in these dispositions. Not necessarily the best, although I understand why people argue that it's the best. I just disagree, but that doesn't mean I think it's bad by any means, to be really, really clear. All right, so this list was running an Alaris captain with the Admoni Mortis enhancement, and he had 5 Alaris attached to him. It was 3 squads, basically identical squads, with a jet bike captain leading 3 jet bikes, and they were all salvo launchers, which is like the twin link to Lad's Talon or so that they're equipped with. You had one squad of 3 Alaris Terminators. You had one Telemon Dreadnought with the reroll ones to hit and wound enhancement. And then you had a Navigator. This is 7 units. It's 7 units. Now, the reality is it was Lions, which means that they could at any time separate the Terminators into more units. So if they were playing into Purge the Foe, they probably would never do that because they don't want to give more units for their enemy to be able to kill. If they're playing into other matchups where it's just you need more board presence, he would probably split the Terminators. But it went really well. It had a good run. It actually functions quite well. It's extremely killy. Having that +1 to hit for Custodes who are already hitting on 2s basically counteracts the entire ability for your opponent to have cover, right? Because cover is like -1 to your ballistic skill, so then they'd be ballistic skill 3, so now they're hitting on 3s, but with +1 to hit, back to hitting on 2s. So more or less cover cancels out cover. It's not exactly canceling cover, but more or less. And then the +1 to wound really increases the damage output for all of these units. Now, a lot of people think that Lions is kind of hard to do because sometimes it's hard to, have your units 6 inches away from each other. But when you only have 7 freaking units on the table, feels good. So this is honestly a pretty good place for a lot of people to start. If you like it, the theory has been proven. It's cool. The Telemon Dread is the only thing that doesn't get the benefit of the Lions detachment, but it does get benefit of Might of the Moritoi. It's very cool to be able to see that they get to bring that in. Now, the Might of the Moritoi is where they get the Purge the Foe disposition from, because Lions actually has the Disruption disposition, and this makes this this is actually a really good example of why you might take a 1 point detachment point. Jeez, we need a better way to say that. A detachment that costs 1 detachment point just to give yourself an additional disposition if you don't like the main disposition that you're going for. So really cool. Great job. This was really fun to see. Now, I've got 2 army builds here for you guys to think about and try. And this first one I'm super, super pumped about, so make sure you stick through with it. This is gonna be Reconnaissance. Now, a lot of people aren't really familiar with Reconnaissance because it's one of those dispositions that I think people just immediately in their head, they go, oh, well, elves like this. Maybe Tyranids might like this, but not armies that just want to kill everything, which is like Custodes or taking hold. So this fits with the Alaris so freaking well. If I wanted to build a Reconnaissance, which is more or less just be in different table quarters and do an action every now and then, dude, I can get 3 squads of Alaris, and I can get myself up to 18 individual Alaris units by utilizing the Unleash the Lions stratagem, which is so freaking powerful. It's such a powerful ability to be able to be everywhere. When you're into certain matchups where you don't want to be spread out, just don't use that ability and you'll be totally freaking fine. Now, on this list, it's not quite maxed to the Supreme. I'm only going with 15 Alaris. Now, I have run it and it 100% works, and in many of the matchups, you just basically guaranteed to get all of your primary, and there's more or less nothing your opponent can do about it. Sure, they can screen you, but they're screening so many individual models that are all kind of strong enough to kill an MSU unit by themselves. It's a big problem for your opponents. So in this list, I have Trajan Valoris. Now, I like to refer to him as Trajan Valorcus. This guy is such a beatstick and just a bad freaking man. I don't like to leave home if I don't have Trajan in my pocket when I'm trying to be running my Custodes. Especially in Lions, where you can spend CP to re-up his once per game ability, where he can either give himself a 2-up invulnerable save or double his attacks. It's so good, stacked with his +1 to wound on his flat damage 3 axe. It is just a nightmare for opponents to deal with. Pro tip for you guys, one of my favorite things to do with freaking Trajan is I like to run him into the biggest bad in the game that you can't deal with this turn and just pop his invuln to force that big bad to be stuck with him in combat for the next turn, meaning it can't activate anywhere else. I love doing that. It's a big problem for people. All right. Then we are running 2 captains. We have a shield captain, Daniel Jetbike. I have given him the Admani Mortis enhancement. This is going to give him +3 to his strength. It's going to give him +1 AP and +1 damage. So he'll take his lance, that takes him to strength 10, AP 3, damage 3. And then I've got my other Alaris captain, who has the Fierce Conqueror enhancement, which will give him an additional +2 attacks for every unit that is 5 or more within, I think, oh man, I can't remember. I think it's within 6 inches of him. Don't quote me on that one. And then I've got 2 squads of 6 Alaris. I've got 1 squad of 3 Alaris. 3 squads of Witch Seekers, and these are going to be under the Silent Hunters detachment, because Silent Hunters gives them the ability to advance in action. It also gives me the ability to do a couple of things, like increase the detection range for my opponents. But basically, it's there because these are the gals who are going to be doing like early actions and getting in early places for reconnaissance. They get that scout move. They can advance still do an action. So if I need to triangulate early into like a tough to reach objective, they can do it for me. And then I'm going to have 2 squads of 3 Virtus Praetors and 1 squad of 2 Virtus Praetors. This army hits incredibly hard, and it has the ability to be absolutely everywhere. I can start, say, 1 or 2 squads of Alaris in reserves. I can start 1 on the table. Turn 1, I unleash those lions. Now I've got 6 individual models that can just uppy downy and go wherever I want in turn 2. Remember, you cannot ingress in turn 1. It doesn't matter if you have uppy. It doesn't matter if you have any of those things. The only way you could ever uppy in turn 1 in 11th edition is if you have an ability that specifically says you can ingress in turn 1. So it's not like 10th edition where if you had uppy downy, you could deep strike in turn 1. It doesn't work that way anymore. So I probably just have 1 unit on the board so I can unleash the lions in turn 1 on them, depending on the matchup, right? So that I can just start getting those individual 1 units, 1 model units everywhere. If I need less units because I'm playing against maybe a purge, perhaps I would just do that with my 1 3-man squad and then have the 2 6-mans down to just beat down on the purge later on. Regardless, this is the way I run it. Personally, for me, I run the Virtus Praetors with Hurricane Bolters. The fact that the +1 to hit can counter out the cover, and then the +1 to wound with twin linked on those Hurricane Bolters really dramatically increases the damage that they're going to be putting out to most things. It's a really profound difference, actually, when you're wounding on 5s with twin linked than it is when you're wounding on 6s with twin linked. And the fact that the AP1 is real due to the cover rule changes, I love these Virtus Praetors. So let me give you one more list that you guys can start like turning your juices over with. This is going to be a shield plus hammer blow, which is the new 1 DP Terminator build, which a lot of people don't like, but man, the more I've been looking at it, the more I freaking am here for it. So once again, I'm going to take Trajan Florus here, Trajan Valorcus, because this dude, man, doubling his attacks with crits on 5s, marvelous. Then we've got a shield captain in a Lars Terminator armor. He will have the enhancement for a turn 1 ingress. I forgot the name of it offhand. That comes from Hammer Blow, which is Theranatoi Hammer Blow, which is the 1 DP, 1 detachment point. Damn, how do we say that without stumbling over our words? And he's going to be leading the Alaris Custodians for a turn 1 deep strike. Now, or turn 1 ingress, because in that detachment, it specifically says you can turn 1 ingress with this ability. Now, I am not decided whether I prefer him with the 5-man or with the 3-man. I think I like him either way. I'm leaning towards the 3-man, but I'm going to be running this in Purge, most likely, not the priority assets, which means that I really, really like the ability just to nuke some crap in turn 1. But I think with the 3-man, it's good enough, especially when I stack that with my ability to give D3 plus 3 shots to all of the grenade launchers, as opposed to D6 in blast on them, so it's D3 plus 3 in blast. So I think I prefer them the most. But remember, what the Terminator attachment does is it also gives me access to a stratagem, which gives me +1 to the toughness of my Terminators. So now my Terminators can be T8 when they're targeted, which is such a big breakpoint for a lot of different weapon profiles in the game. So I absolutely love the way this hits. It hits so freaking hard. Then I've got 3 squads of Venatari. Venatari, they still have the ability to rapid ingress even if another unit has already rapid ingressed. So these guys, I could technically rapid ingress 4 units in a single turn with this army. Stack that with the ability to have cover or even gone to ground for the 12-inch low knob, right, in my opponent's shooting phase. It makes it so easy to position this army for a knockout blow. Now, you might be trying to do that knockout blow in battle round 3 instead of battle round 2 in a lot of scenarios, but my goodness, when you have 3 squads of Venatari, a squad of Alaris, all rapid ingressing in the same freaking turn, probably not spending any CP on it, because there's, maybe spending CP, depending on whether you did his turn 1 ingress or not. It can be really profound for staging and just overwhelming your opponent. And I love the feel of it. I built a similar thing in the previous edition, but with the new abilities for those Terminators, my goodness, it gets so much stronger. And I'm still going to keep the Dawn Eagle jet bikes because the Dawn Eagle jet bikes are so powerful in the new edition. Maybe I need to do a video specifically on them, but with having the frame keyword added to the Virtus Praetors, oh, mama. It makes this unit so much faster than you think it is because those spears stick out really far. And since there's no pivot cost in this edition, if you have a unit of Virtus Praetors deployed sideways on the line, they can move forward. They're 12 inches. And then when they're ready to go through a wall, because remember, fly, you can just take to the skies, -2 to your movement ability, -2 to your movement characteristic, but you can fly through walls. Then I can move my 10 inches through the wall and then rotate my base for an additional like 3.5 to 4 inches of movement. So I can get these guys going anywhere between like effectively 14 to 16 inches based off of where I'm moving them and how I start them deployed on the table. They become obnoxiously fast. You can do the exact same thing on their double move because the captains give them the ability to, after they fought, they can either do a normal move once per game or a fallback move. And you can absolutely take to the skies when you do those moves as well, moving through walls. So I absolutely love this list. It's very strong, especially if you're a big fan of just like murdering your opponent. So these are 3 different ways to start taking a look at Custodes in the new edition. Let me know what you think down below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Are you pumped up for the Golden Boys? Because I'm freaking pumped up for the Golden Boys. And just a heads up, when that codex drops, there's going to be some spice for us to go through. I can't wait to get my teeth into it. I'm pretty sure it's like the 3rd codex, if I'm not mistaken. Ooh, there's going to be some really, really cool Adeptus Custodes stuff to talk about that. All right, guys, with that, I am going to take off today. So I want to hear your thoughts down below about the Golden Boys and who else you're really, really excited for in this edition. Crump on. Bye-bye.